How's it going? It's Poor Sports. We're back. Back kind of slacked. I've been slacking lately, folks. I'll admit. There was a time when I thought I would want to do this podcast like 4 days a week. And I don't know if that's over, but what I will tell you is I don't want to do that right now. My weeks are too busy. My life is too busy. Much like the former co-host of this podcast, I have young kids and it's tough. It is tough. Um and I'm, trying to be a comedian. Speaking of which, come see me this week. I'm all over the place actually this week. I'm at Tacoma Comedy Club, that competition I've been hosting for fucking 11 weeks or something like that. Um, it's ending tonight, tomorrow night, Tuesday night, the Comedy Voice final. Come check it out. A bunch of good comedians. We're in the finals. You'll get to see their best, I don't know, 7-8 minutes, something like that. I'll do a set that'll probably bomb, and then we'll be done. And then I finally get paid for this competition, and maybe it'll be the last competition I'm ever involved with. The Seattle International Comedy Competition is going on right now, by the way. And my buddy Jess Everett just made it to the second round. A couple friends of mine made it to the second round, actually. So shout out to those folks who are probably losing their minds with anxiety while performing a performance art. As it's supposed to be done, it should be judged by people who don't know anything about it. That's what the best art is that's how the best art is made. I've done the competition a couple times. It's fucking miserable. I hate competitions. Comedy competitions, the thing about them is you go into it going like, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Competitions suck. We all know that. And then you get a little ways into them and you're invested in something you did not care about 3 weeks ago. I mean, that one I would care about winning, but a lot of them you're like, I don't even care about winning this competition. Anyway, the Seahawks played on Sunday after a week, and this is kind of the downside of not doing multiple podcasts in a week is the Seahawks released Terrell Dodson. I don't think I talked about that. I'm now questioning the timeline, and Connor Williams retired on Friday, which I know we did not talk about. And those two things, I mean, those are two of I would say, of a relatively quiet offseason. Those were probably the two, I mean, I guess like the two moves I was the most excited about. I thought the two moves that were like had the highest upside. Jerome Baker was fine. I was not as excited about Jerome Baker as I was about Terrell Dodson because Dodson came with the PFF hype that Jerome Baker did not necessarily come with. Connor Williams, a guy who it felt like if he was healthy, was a guy maybe could be the Seahawks starting center for a half a decade. And, we don't know he's coming back from a knee injury. The reports are that it has nothing to do with the injury. I've thought about it a fair amount. I mean, this guy is 27 years old. Seems to have like physically recovered from this injury. And it's not an injury, knee injuries. I'm talking as a guy who like has a partially torn ACL right now, well documented on this podcast. Listen, I'm not worried about my kids tearing their ACLs. I'm worried about them receiving concussions. And my kids, I got two girls. My oldest plays soccer. The other one is 1.5 years old. We got no worries at this point that there's going to be concussions, but head injuries as a millennial parent, it's like top of mind. Do not get a head injury. That's not what Connor Williams had. So you kind of wonder, in the bye week, the team promises to make some changes coming out of the bye week. One of those things, it sounds like, would have been the benching of Terrell Dodson. Instead, Tyrese Knight takes his spot. They release Dodson. I don't want to speculate on that. I don't have inside information. I would say that there's a chance that they were trying to do him a solid to get another spot somewhere else. There was a chance that Dodson was a clubhouse cancer that they were not aware of, and they're not trying to burn the bridge on the way out because perhaps other free agents are looking at the situation. But just a whirlwind week of news, 2 unexpected departures. I don't think anyone had either of those guys leaving on their list of things that were likely to happen last week. And then, obviously, the Seahawks go to San Francisco or Santa Clara. Everyone loves to point out that it's actually in Santa Clara, which I also find fun. And reel off an unexpected win. And a win in a game that, if there is such a thing as a signature win in Geno Smith's career, this is it. A game that he does. I would say did not play particularly well, by the way. He had some great throws, had some kind of bad throws, took some sacks that he didn't need to, threw an interception that he didn't need to. Like these were not, it wasn't a flawless game. We also saw, by the way, the return of Abraham Lucas, who I actually want to go back. I'm looking at the PFF grades right now, and let's see what our pal Abe Lucas, Abe Lucas was the second highest graded pass blocker behind Zach Charbonnet. So the highest graded offensive lineman in pass protection. And I thought it showed. I mean, there was points where he was still getting beat. Nick Bosa is no joke. Nick Bosa is one of the best pass rushers in football history, frankly. And he made Mike Jarrell look like shit. Mike Jarrell got a 44.5 in pass blocking. And I understand that the Seahawks probably have to limit Abe Lucas's snaps coming off of, essentially a year and a half worth of injuries. But, man, I mean, you got to hope that he gets up to speed quickly and can play most of the snaps. Laken Tomlinson, Charles Cross, Anthony Bradford, and Olu Oluwatimi played 60 snaps each, played the entire game. Mike Jarrell played 18 snaps. Abe Lucas played 42 snaps. What I will say, when there was a point in the game where Jarrell, it was right before Nick Bosa got injured, Jarrell was in the game and got just absolutely manhandled by Bosa. And my first thought was like, oh shit, this is like George Fant. Like, probably Abraham Lucas injured himself again. Like everything that you hear about this, you've heard about this injury, is that it's some chronic issue. He may never be able to fully recover from it. I don't have any inside information on the injury. I was stressed out about that, but he came back, played well, was in there in the final drive. Saw him come up limping on a what I think is the injured knee a couple times, but overall looked pretty good, and the PFF numbers bear out that it was a pretty good game. 73.4 rating pass blocking, by the way, and a 79 run blocking. And the offensive line was not perfect. I certainly think that the pass protection was like visibly improved, but there's holes. I mean, Anthony Bradford got worked at different points in that game. I didn't notice. So Olu Oluwatimi gets his second career start, unexpected start with the retirement of Connor Williams. I didn't notice, good or bad. I'm not an offensive line coach or an analyst. It did not seem to me like he played incredibly badly, but whatever. I'm trying to see I'm trying to figure out the pressures allowed stat here. Yeah, so better performance by the offensive line. I wonder how much different that game is if Nick Bosa stays healthy. I wonder how much different that game is if Christian McCaffrey is healthy. I wonder if George Kittle is healthy, if Brandon Ayuk is healthy. Like the 49ers have had just an absolute slew of injuries this year. But Geno Smith, first time in his career as a Seahawk, beating the 49ers, a game the Seahawks had to have. Also, by the way, the return of DK Metcalf, who was, he was just everything you've grown to expect out of DK Metcalf. Just like funky looking routes, but was at least getting targeted on a variety of routes. Whether he was running them well or not, I think is a different question. But in fact, let's see what the PFF grade for old DK is, because that might not be let's see. What do we got here? DK. Yeah, so DK gets a 66.9 grade in the receiving department. Jackson Smith-Njigba with an 87. He had Smith-Njigba maintained his production, maintained his target total. I think we might just see a lot of passing from the Seahawks the rest of the year. And Jackson Smith-Njigba stands to be a guy who can really, especially if they have to get the ball out quick, if he's playing in the slot, he has a lot of opportunity to catch a lot of balls. Was there anything else? Again, it's a game that the Seahawks had to have, but I don't know that it significantly changes my outlook on anyone. It doesn't change my outlook on this team. There's still probably like a 25% to make the playoff team. Does it change? So I think the reason why it doesn't change my opinion of Geno Smith is that I don't feel like my opinion was so bad that I need to adjust as a result of this. Geno Smith did not have an incredible game. He had an incredible final drive. And even that's like, he takes a sack that maybe he doesn't need to take. The run at the end was ballsy with no timeouts because you took the sack. That's final play of the game. If he doesn't make it across the goal line and he doesn't get out of bounds, that's final play of the game. Very risky. So, great play on Geno Smith's part. I will say I have some 49ers fans in my life. Not good sports when the 49ers lose to the Seahawks. It's been a long time since I've been able to throw that shit in their face. Not necessarily good sports. On the defense, I will say, I'll pull the defense up real quick. I know I'm not sharing this. I got to get out of here pretty quickly. I got to go get my daughter. We just got her a scooter. I'm going to take her out on the scooter. That's why I'm recording this in advance, by the way. I'm not putting it out live at 3 p.m. So I was surprised because Christian McCaffrey was held in check. And I was surprised to pull up this PFF grade and see that Ernest Jones was the 16th rated defender on the Seahawks, that he had a 49.7 overall grade. What was he? 56.6 against the run, 52.1 in pass rush, 51 in coverage, 65.8 in tackling. I think some people will view this as an indictment of PFF. That the fact that the Seahawks were effective and that they saw Ernest Jones in on a lot of plays means that he absolutely had to have had a very good game. First off, played every snap. That's good. Tyrese Knight plays 51 snaps. Oh, Devin Witherspoon had a hell of a game. I forgot about that. Devin Witherspoon had a hell of a game and was ranked very high. Tyrese Knight, by the way, second highest rated defender on the team. So is this a situation? We've talked the Mike McDonald era, a lot of time and a lot of ink, virtual digital ink has been spent on trying to figure out how the Seahawks can emulate the Baltimore Ravens to make Mike McDonald the best possible coach he can be. And one thing that they always point to, that the people always point to or often point to about the Ravens, is that Patrick Queen never really took off. That defense was never really great under Mike McDonald until they traded for Roquan Smith. Now, is Ernest Jones Roquan Smith? I don't know. But you take this guy, Tyrese Knight, who goes from being a fourth-round pick, getting kind of fringe snaps, to getting the bulk of the snaps at the other inside linebacker position, or whatever. I know the Seahawks run like a hybrid scheme. I'm not here to talk fucking X's and O's. But becomes the second highest rated defender on the team. And I again, people will criticize. By the way, I think Jonathan Hankins, didn't he have an interception? hit an interception and had the lowest rating of anyone on the team. That's hilarious. 61.4 in coverage, though, Jonathan Hankins. How many snaps did he actually drop it into coverage? Yeah, so some of these things are interdependent, right? Like Ernest Jones coming to the team may give Tyrese Knight the opportunity to do the things that he's actually good at, and Ernest Jones is taking on that work, and they'll figure it out as time goes on. I would not personally, I think PFF does the best job of anybody, but I would never read so much into a single game's grades. Again, because things are so interdependent. It's the same reason why, like, running backs, when you say running backs don't matter, it's not because there's not a difference in talent between good running backs and bad running backs. It's because the production of a running back does not depend on the running back being incredible. It depends on the offensive line and the scheme being incredible. Or good, anyway, whatever. Yeah, a very encouraging game. I think that, like, if you start to add all the qualifiers in, the fact that Deebo Samuel seemed kind of slow, frankly, that Juwan Jennings pretty much dominated the Seahawks, by the way. A guy who I've been aware of since early in the season. I made a brilliant fantasy acquisition, folks, but a guy who just feels like a San Francisco receiver, a guy who goes out, does the dirty work, a guy who could step in, a guy who, frankly, probably makes that team, now that Brandon Ayuk is missing the rest of the season with a torn ACL, probably makes the team regret signing him to a big extension. And the team was obviously very apprehensive to sign him to a huge extension. Yeah. Juwan Jennings torched the Seahawks, but he's a slot guy, averaged under 10 yards a catch. I don't think there was a single incompletion to him, by the way. In fact, let's take a look at what Juwan Jennings, he had to have a monster grade. 82 offensive grade, 82.0, 82.1 offensive grade, 82.0 receiving. Absolute monster game. 10 out of 10 targets, 10 receptions, 91 yards, a touchdown. Physical, though, like, this dude is yeah. I think Juwan Jennings is a legit talent. And the 49ers seem to be able to kind of cycle those guys through. Deebo, seven targets, 4 receptions, 22 yards, not a factor. Christian McCaffrey, 4 receptions, 27 yards. Kyle Juszczyk, 2 targets, 2 catches, 12 yards, but that's not okay. And then Ricky Pearsall, by the way, a guy I was interested to see because he was their first round pick, rookie out of Florida, that's just recently back from being shot. He only had 1 target in the whole game. So I guess that's the question I have. The question that I have coming off of this game is so much speculation about. By the way, can I just point out, I got a box of diapers in the background? Yes, of course I do. Of course I have a box of diapers in the background. It's full of recyclable goods right now, but boxes and stuff from various equipment. But yes, there's a box of diapers in the background. So what I wonder about Geno Smith, so this is the whole setting as I understand it. Obviously, Geno Smith is under contract for another year. Sam Howell is here on a rookie deal for another year. The 2025 draft class is not very good. There are I would say what it lacks in top end talent, there's depth or breadth. No, depth at the quarterback position. There's like 6 or 7 guys that I think are all going to be graded pretty similarly by honest brokers of draft analysis. I'm not against the Seahawks drafting a quarterback high, even with the caveat that, like, maybe none of these guys are good. I'm a draft them early, draft them often guy. Does that mean that do I want to see the Seahawks take a quarterback in the first round next year? The only reason I would say no is because I think that commits them to pursuing that guy as their long-term option, as their long-term starter, and it takes away the core tenets. By the way, that's the thing about the moves that the Seahawks made that I really loved, is it seems like it brought back the very best of what the Pete Carroll, John Schneider era was, which was nobody's safe. Nobody's job is safe. And yeah, I thought that's good. And I'd like to see that at the quarterback position also. That's how you ended up with Russell Wilson. If they would have followed the status quo, if they would have followed conventional wisdom, started Matt Flynn, tried to shoehorn him back into the starting lineup after a variety of injuries or whatever, the Seahawks' entire legacy might be different. The Seahawks' whole history probably changes in some ways. So yeah, I would like to see. I think you could keep Geno, you could keep Sam Howell, and you could draft the guy high if that guy is available. And then maybe trade one of those guys, trade one of Howell or Geno if the right offer comes along and you've shored up the position with a younger player. But nothing to me, the only way this performance by Geno could change your opinion of Geno is if you have just a mercurial, fucking insane opinion of Geno. He didn't have a great game. I think he still leads the league in interceptions. Some of those aren't his fault, but many of them are. Some of it is like bad luck. I've seen Josh Allen has like a ton of throws that were turnover worthy that have just not resulted in turnovers because of good luck. Supposedly. I mean, I haven't even seen the stats, but my point is this game shouldn't change your opinion of Geno. I don't know. The Seahawks right now are in true purgatory because they need to find they need. It feels like they need an answer at quarterback, but they also just need more options, I think. All right. I don't know if that even makes sense. Let's talk about Dave Sims, because I love Dave Sims. Dave Sims is going to go be the Yankees play-by-play radio guy replacing John Sterling. First off, the over the years, the negative opinions of Dave Sims, I've just absolutely never understood. And it's not just, by the way, it's not just fans. There's like several local radio guys who just don't like him, just think he's a terrible announcer. And I think he's great. I think he's one of the most like underrated pure broadcasters. There's very few people who have reached the level of sports he's at in multiple sports and also are able to do, like, he had a weekly radio show with Mike Krzyzewski. He's had multiple podcasts. He was a writer. He's done like everything. The man has done everything. He's Bob Costas-esque, I would say. Jim Nantz-esque. In fact, I've recommended his podcast, but he had Jim Nantz on recently. He's a quintessential professional broadcaster, and we were lucky to have him in Seattle. Now, did he have some moments, some lapses, some times where a big moment would happen and he would stumble on his words? Sure. You try talking into a microphone 3 hours a day, 162 times a year, and not fucking up on occasion. Dave Sims also had some pretty amazing calls, as much as the Mariners allowed him to have with their performance as a team. But one of the things that I've always thought, and I'd love to hear your comments on this, because I guess I just have always enjoyed Dave Sims. Unapologetically, I've never had to convince myself. I've thought he was very good. And I did not like Niehaus. Early in my wife and my relationship, we went to Dave Niehause's the memorial service that the Mariners held for him at Safeco Field. And it was Safeco Field at the time. I've always kind of felt like Dave Sims got unfairly compared to Dave Niehaus because even though he didn't take his spot, even though they shared a broadcast booth for some years, people just viewed it as Dave Sims replacing Dave Niehaus. And if your beef with Dave Sims is that Dave Sims occasionally will mistake a long fly ball for a potential home run when it doesn't quite reach the warning track, it tells me that you did not listen to Dave Niehaus at the end of his career. The man is in his 70s. Dave Sims is, as was Dave Niehaus. Niehaus used to do that all the time. Niehaus used to ramble on in the same ways. To some degree, the reason I like Dave Sims is he reminds me of, I would argue, has all the positive traits of Dave Niehaus without trying to do an imitation of Dave Niehaus. And I also think like Mariners fans do not appreciate how hard it is, how hard it was for Dave Sims, and how hard it would be for how hard it was for Dave Niehaus, how hard it would be for Dave Sims to call a mediocre baseball team or worse for 2 decades, for 3 decades, plus in Niehaus' case. So I'm happy to see him get his day job or his dream job, because he lives in New York. He's an East Coast guy. He's been summering in Seattle for the past 18 years. He's one of the, for my money, he's the second best announcer in Mariners history. And if I was going to be completely honest, I recognize Dave Niehaus' place in this organization's history. I think Dave Sims is a better broadcaster. That's my honest opinion. Dave Niehaus was great, and Dave Niehaus was the Seattle Mariners. But on just like a technical level, I'm a Sims man. Yeah, probably everybody shut off this. That's my controversial Seattle Mariners opinion, is that I like Dave Sims, I think, more than Dave Niehaus towards the end of his career. All right, that's probably sacrilegious. The Casey McLean, whatever. If you haven't shut off the podcast, the Casey McLean comedy everywhere. I love you. Thank you for listening. We're going to end the podcast. We'll talk to you later. I don't know if it'll be this week or next week, but we'll talk to you later. Bye.